Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MDEV 2025. I'm Tucker Hazel, and these are the creator conversations today. We have the guy who's a little bit responsible for all this. Frankly, it's your fault. Ben Kvalo here, part of the WGA, part of MDEV, part of Midwest Games, and we're here to talk about this event that you have put on. I'm really happy to be here and have you tell us the story of what is going on here. So let's first start with where you got involved with MDEV and why you thought this was something so important to put your time into.
Yeah, so it all started about 3 years ago for me personally. I was invited to be the keynote. I had just announced I was leaving Netflix at the time, and decided to come back, build my own company here. I hadn't really announced the full scope of anything, and they asked me to speak and talk about, why I was coming back. And so that was the beginning for me. It was being a keynote. That immediately led to, they were like, well, you want to run the show? And then it led to, you want to be the president of the organization? And now here I am, as the president of WGA, as the chair of MDEV, and then, my actual hustle, which is running Wisconsin's first video game publisher.
Yeah, and all of those things are intertwined right now. And MDEV is obviously supported by WGA and your Midwest Games. You have a booth out there. And so what is the synergy between those three jobs and roles that you've started to build up into one? It's all building towards one goal. And so what do you think that goal in the center of all three of those is?
Well, so I really realized my focus area, or my probably talent or, superpower is kind of seeing this ecosystem building piece of things and looking at, well, how do we take all the components that are needed? If you look at a flourishing games ecosystem, around the world, it has different components to it. It has a developer ecosystem. It has a strong publisher in region. It has strong events happening in region. It has strong nonprofit organizations that are advocating. It has investors in. And I was like, well, we got development. We have investors that have money, but they don't invest in games. We didn't have a publisher until I started it. We had an organization that was advocating and doing it. So we had half of the components that make up the ecosystem, but we didn't have everything else. And so I look at what I'm doing as these are complementary pieces that help our mission as an organization like the Wisconsin Games Alliance to support game development, but also for my mission as Midwest Games to be a component of it that both benefits and puts into this ecosystem that we're building. And a part of it is I get the benefit of being able to both do something from a standpoint of I care deeply and passionately about it, and it's a good business. It makes sense. It is practical to do what we're doing, and so I can toe that line of being able to do something that is creating good in the world and doing something that can make a profitable business long term.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've been talking to a bunch of people about here in these interviews is how Midwest game development is something that's not really widely known. And obviously you're doing everything you can. Your entire life is dedicated to changing that. But I'm curious, looking back, before you got involved in all of this, what was your perception of game development in the Midwest? How much were you aware of it? Because even for me, as someone who has roots in the Midwest, I was completely unaware until I met you of all of this. So what was that history like before, and then how did you kind of come to understand the context of game development in the Midwest?
It took so many hours of research and really digging into everything, and that is part of the challenge. Is most people don't know. I didn't realize the full extent. I knew some of it. I knew of Raven. I knew that Dungeons and Dragons was invented in Wisconsin, and some of the aspects of it. But the full depth of everything that exists here, it took a lot of research, and so I took it upon myself as kind of leading a mission to create better awareness. We also have a cultural thing here in the Midwest that we're a bit humble and don't talk about successes, don't highlight that. And so I like to look at it as, I've spent the last 15 years, most of which in LA. You got to bring a little bit of that LA edge to it because LA and Hollywood has the perception it does, not because it is actually that, but it's because that's what they tell everybody it is.
Interesting.
And in so many ways it becomes that. even if it wasn't originally.
Yeah.
And
So speaking it into reality.
Exactly. And so that is the opportunity that we have, is we actually have this stuff happening. We need to better highlight it and talk about the future potential of it, and also celebrate each other and all the successes happening here, and really showing it's from here. Because you look at like the Nordic region, you look at like Sweden or Finland, and they very purposely talk about either the holistic Nordic region or games in Finland. And that makes a huge difference in the perception. And what happens is there's larger investment from the outside in, and then there's larger investment from inside that region as well into games.
Yeah, raising awareness helps all the tide and the ships and all that raising up. We all know the thing. So what about the games that are made here? Some of the games that are on the show floor, the teams, the indie teams, the more established publishers. Are there any of those that, as you've explored the show floor here, that you really want to highlight in terms of they're doing it right to help bring a little bit of energy and creative spirit to Midwest games?
Yeah, well, so from a big AAA level, we have to call out Raven being here. They just celebrated their 35th anniversary, and they are the bedrock of what this is built upon. Respawn and PUBG and these other ones would not have been here had it not been for that. I mean, maybe they would have. I don't want to fully say they wouldn't, but Raven contributed to that greatly. Respawn just built a new office, are expanding what they can do in the city. So they're doing exciting things. You look at a company like Lost Boys, and they've really thought about how to combine both the superpowers of Wisconsin, the Midwest, but work through a remote organization that can work in many different places and support developers in many different ways. And then PUBG, the PUBG office is kind of a homegrown, even though it's attached to PUBG, kind of a homegrown success story of what can be done here, because that very well could have been moved to Korea. But it ultimately got here, flourished here, and they've led the charge for that product, and it has been a huge success globally. And still, it's 10 plus years old at this point, about that.
Almost,
and a lot of the driving success comes from the Madison office. And then you look at a company like Purblue, homegrown studio, worked on Disney Heroes on the mobile side of things, worked with a big IP right in Wisconsin. And so they're all doing it right. Not all of them are on the show floor. They're all in different ways. PUBG is sponsoring the coffee stand and things like that, because got to stay energized, right? And I need a coffee right now. And so those are good examples. And then you see all the indies that are starting to go out, show off their game, be involved, and that makes a huge difference by allowing for your product to be seen by the public, get feedback on it, and it's nerve-wracking the first time you show that. And some of these have come back, year after year, and showcase the game, showcase the progress. And it's a great moment to be able to see what the breadth of different things that are happening. Another big thing that's happened this year is the amount of schools that are here, or universities that are here, that are part of the event, that are building out games programs, that are supporting games in larger ways. And they're not only doing it from a standpoint of they're doing something, they have a program at the school, they're actually sending people here. DePaul sent a bus and an extra van off of that because they had so much interest in it. Bradley as well, some of these other universities that are outside the state. So there's just a lot of that happening right now at MDEV.
Yeah, and the indie alley that we have going on right over behind this wall is one of the coolest parts of this. There's so much color and energy and people and different kinds of games, and I love that you are helping to, with this venue and the event, highlight some of these people that are making their first projects. Some of them are just fresh out of college, but you also then take the next step with your publisher, Midwest Games, to publish some of those games. And so I'm curious where for you see certain projects that really catch your eye. What about those games make them special? And I think we can shepherd this into something bigger by being the publisher of the game.
Yeah. So we do some traditional publishing still. So when we're looking at traditional publishing, we want something that can break out commercially, because whenever you're doing traditional publishing, you're investing money in, it adds risk. So you need something that can break out in a substantial way. It can't just be something you are hoping to break even. So the commercial viability of a product, it can't be a niche audience for us to really evaluate it. The thing that we're spending most of our time on now, which is fairly new, we announced it back end of January, beginning of February, is what we're calling shadow publishing, which is flipping the traditional publishing model on its head and saying, well, instead of taking rev share, IP rights, control of the product, and adding risk on our end, we're going to keep the risk, we're going to keep the reward with the developer. We're not going to take any rev share, we're not going to take any IP rights, and it's just a monthly retainer model where we're able to provide the services that make a publisher really powerful, but do it in a model that keeps the developer in control and allows them to create a sustainable development studio afterwards, of which we hope, if we're helping them get there, they will continue to hire us because of the relationship we're able to build. I think it changed the dynamics between publisher-developer, where you hear a lot of hate on publishers.
Yeah, definitely.
When in reality, the services a publisher provides are incredibly valuable. Publishers make 90 to 95% of total revenue in the market, so anything that's backed by a publisher. So they know what they're doing, just the practices aren't always good, which is why we're trying to change the model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am curious then at the end to focus a little bit on you and your relationship with the games. What are some of the games that personally inspire you? It can be games that are from your past that got you into wanting to be in the industry, or even ones you're playing now that excite you for the future.
Yeah, I mean, Zelda: Link to the Past was one of that's the nostalgic one that I can think back on. It's so cool to be able to have a 2D Soul-like, Zelda-like Western that we're publishing.
Yeah, Tomb Water.
Yep, Tomb Water, which is just cool, and it brings nostalgia to me, but also is just an incredible new touch. Like, as much as like it's a retro-looking pixelated game, 2D, it is looking at the Souls-like arena and doing it in a very different way in this Western world where there's not a lot of Western games, but there's a large fan base that wants to see more of those. And so we see that ability to break kind of out, which is super, super exciting to us. So that one, from a nostalgic lens, I'm a big RimWorld fan, a huge fan of RimWorld. I've put probably over 1,000 hours into that game. So I love strategy games. I've been playing lately Songs of Silence by a company, Remote Control, and Chimera Games over in Germany. So that's a great strategy game as well. So really enjoying that right now. So I love a lot of strategy games, but I'm like very eclectic. I'll play sports games, I'll play shooters, I'll play strategy. I just love games in general, and there's very few that I just don't like. Maybe there's a bunch of mobile games I don't like, but besides that.
Well, finally, before we wrap up, I'm curious if there's any elements of MDEV, of WGA, of Midwest Games that you think people don't know about. You've covered a lot of ground here, and is there any kind of like secret element of the strengths or even weaknesses in this area and the things that you do that you either want to work on or build upon for the future?
Well, so a lot of people don't realize, and we see it a lot, in the comments towards the Wisconsin Games Alliance. Wisconsin Games Alliance is a nonprofit organization that's run by volunteers. Everyone doing the work, except for like the events team we hire to help support us, is unpaid, is just doing it from a passion place to support the region, and through no like financial reward or really any incentive besides like we get to help. And so that is both an amazing thing and a real weakness. We need to have organizations that have paid employees. We need more studios in the region that aren't just maybe working a day job and working on their game at night, that actually create more sustainable studios. So we need to be thinking about some of that and making sure that people are getting paid for the work that they're doing. But as a nonprofit, like we can do that kind of work. but we need to get to a place, especially in order to create long-term sustainability, where we have, what other nonprofit organizations have, which is executive directors and other paid roles to really drive forward continual growth.
Yeah. Well, I think we've pretty thoroughly covered a lot of the stuff that we're doing here, the strengths, the weaknesses, the culture, the people, and I'm so happy that you invited me here, that you invited everyone here. We've really created an interesting community, and everyone's just so excited. You can hear the energy even in this room. So, Ben, thank you very much for sitting down with me, and I hope everyone watching learned a little something about all this stuff. So, thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me.